Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Elizabeth Rogliani, and today I want to tell a little bit of a story. Before I get into it, I invite you to subscribe and or follow me on Instagram. My handle is right here. On July 14th this year, Barry Weiss sent in her resignation letter to her New York Times editor, A.G. Salzberg. Ms. Weiss had been brought into the newspaper after the 2016 election with the task of bringing in new voices that would not otherwise appear in its pages. After a few years, she concluded the publisher was not what it once was or perceived to be, a golden standard of journalism. Instead, it had become an illiberal haven where the truth was not treated as something to be discovered, but as an orthodoxy known to an enlightened few whose job was to explain it to everyone else. The writer describes her work environment as someone that considers herself a political centrist. She was called a racist and a Nazi. Her co-workers constantly demeaning her through the company's Slack, where sometimes the New York Times editors would weigh in and add. Those who were perceived to be friendly to her were to be badgered by others. Sometimes these attacks would become public, where other employees would openly smear her as a liar on Twitter. What Ms. Weiss is describing is the cultural war the United States is experiencing as a nation, and she was experiencing it on her own skin. So what is a cultural war? A cultural war is a cultural conflict, obviously, between social groups and their struggle for dominance where their values, practices, and belief systems are at play. This is not a live and let live type of scenario. And in the case that we are living in the United States today, those who most often call for inclusion and diversity are those who are desperately trying to get rid of diversity of thought. The question is, don't they see the contradiction in their actions? Don't they see that while they call themselves liberal, they're anything but that? Perhaps it has something to do with the pervasive Marxist ideology and philosophy of critical theory, which has invaded our culture and has been taught to university students for generations. And so we have reached this critical point of division. This philosophy seeks to see society through the lens of power dynamics, and I have talked about this in a different video, which I will link below. All aspects of society, be it art, law, philosophy, relationships, history, these are all observed as if there is always an oppressor and an oppressed. This especially manifests itself today in the United States through gender and through race. The simplified implication is that the power is with the oppressor and the virtue is with the oppressed. Therefore, anything you do as the oppressed against the oppressor will be justified and righteous. Bullying, violence, harassment, all justifiable and necessary for justice. At least that's the case in the minds of those who embrace and believe critical theory. Be it subtly or fully, the oppressor can do nothing right, and the only way to remedy the situation would be to inverse the power dynamics and have the oppressed become the oppressor. This brings up the question, wouldn't that result in a vicious cycle? Yes, it would. In fact, current cultural icon that the American progressives champion, Ibram X. Kendi, suggests exactly that in his best-selling book, How to Be an Anti-Racist, where he writes the only remedy to racist discrimination is anti-racist discrimination. The only remedy to past discrimination is present discrimination. And the only remedy to present discrimination is future discrimination. So here we have an author advocating openly for discrimination. Then we have another one, Robin DiAngelo, an avowed racist and writer of White Fragility, another best-selling book, insists that to deny being racist is in fact proof of being racist. It seems to me that this person is projecting her own racism onto others. So these two people are currently being promoted as change makers and moral voices of the progressive left. It seems to me that progressives keep drifting further left with no one to stop them. The risk of being seen as a bigot is far too great. They eat their own. If you're a member of the left, yet they speak against their increasing attachment to identity politics, you will be tar and feathered and cancelled. Canadian professor Jordan Peterson touches on this.
On the right, I think we've identified markers for people who've gone too far in their ideological presuppositions. And it looks to me like the marker we've identified is racial superiority.
It is ethically incumbent of those who consider themselves liberal and left-leaning to identify the markers of pathological extremism on the left and to distinguish themselves from those people. He has said that that is not happening, and I agree with him. The few and far cases in between are those people who, as I said, have been cancelled because, again, the left eats their own. So they keep accepting the dogma, which makes them drift further and further to the radical left. This is a movement where leftist academic intellectuals even call into question mathematical truths such as 2 + 2 = 4, because to them, math is a social construct. Gender, apparently, is also a social construct. To them, there's no such thing as gender, but simultaneously, there's an infinite amount of genders. If you oppose these ideas and attempt to uphold traditional values, you are called a bigot, retrograde, archaic. To quote Professor Peterson again, normalcy itself is being rejected and pathologized, while pathologies themselves are being normalized. And we're living in a time where we can alter our concept of reality based on a whim or our feelings.
What do we call people that go willy-nilly through life just doing things because it feels good?
Democrats.
Attaboy.
Herein lies a culture war, a fight to preserve our concept of reality, or to turn everything on its head, to destroy. Social justice warriors sought to erase history from our eyes by mere destruction. The message is that police officers are evil. The message is that criminals have a right to resist arrest. The message is that white people are inherently evil, and the only way to atone for this is to give away their power and to fight those who won't, or who are perceived they won't. The message is that men are a problem for women and for society. The message is that the United States is a fundamentally evil country, which has to be burned to the ground for something new to emerge. Something better. Better. The message seeks to divide, create chaos, and to destroy the history of a nation that has long stood as a beacon of hope for many in the world. The cultural battle is now between those who want to preserve that history, that nation, and even reality itself. Is between traditionalists, true classical liberals, and those who knowingly or unknowingly are paving the way for Marxism by embracing its philosophies.